personally, you'll find yourself always overthinking everything, and this will give you stress, and at the same time, it will make you always keep on looking back and remembering what has gone wrong. Because remember, things do go wrong. And at the same time, remember, when you pray, God fixes it. Swallow your pride. If you need help, ask for it. There is no need to put on a stubborn and stoic persona while your ship is sinking. Always know that there are people who you can talk to and those that you cannot. But one of the best things to do is to remember that humility is not a sign of strength. In fact, it is strength. So if you need help, look around for it, ask for help. People will understand. But your best help always comes from above. Part of walking tall as you're bouncing back is learning to ignore inconsequential issues. Focus on what is in front of you. Focus on getting out of your situation. People are going to put pressure on you. There's always, every corner, this and this needs to be done. People talk, people say anything, people can do anything to you, but you need to focus and ignore everything that doesn't matter and face what you have to face so that you're able to sort out the problems while walking tall. This has been Self-Care Tips on how to always walk tall, no matter what it is that you're going through. You will bounce back.
Kupata Waibrania kama skiza tuni yako, bonyeza star 811 star 817 hash.
Yesu Kristo ni yule yule, jana, leo na hata milele. Wahibrania 13 mstari wa 8.
Kupata Waibrania, bonyeza star 811 star 817 hash. Star 811 star 8.
Well, a good evening to you. Great thanks for joining us. Welcome to Sunday Express. Baringo County has two problems, both of them perennial: cattle rustling and hunger, obviously occasioned by drought. But does the government have a serious solution to the two problems that face Baringo or confront Baringo County? Tonight, President William Ruto says he has a plan for both. We will tell you in our bulletin tonight.
Good evening. As we talk about solutions to problems, you're going to be having a keen focus on persons with disabilities from the north. And we're going to be looking at issues of stigma as well as lack of inclusion and how this contributes to their, not well state of mental state, actually, not their mental wellness. So We are going to be having that conversation, and rightfully put,
Absolutely.
It is 7 days to the World Cup.
1 week, exactly 1 week to the beginning of World Cup, and KBC Channel 1 brings you the action of 28 matches, pre-selected matches, and then of course Radio Taifa, English Service, and the other 11 or 12 radio stations that are under the KBC stable will be bringing you the live matches, all the 68. And because KBC is your true partner in sports, and as you can see behind us, World Cup iko KBC.
Tuseme mambo ni mengi, masaa ni chache.
Masaa ndio machache. Let's have a look at tonight's highlights.
Mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa Baringo vile ninawaambia watu wa Samburu, Turkana, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, tutahakikisha ya kwamba sehemu hii tunakuwa na amani.
President William Ruto says the government will take firm measures to restore security in Kerio Valley. Drought takes a heavy toll on livestock in Marsabit, forcing herders to retain animals that are too weak to look for pasture. And in memory of our fallen war heroes, British Army honors soldiers who died in the First and Second World Wars.
Our sign language interpreter tonight is Lensa Udingo. My name is John Jacob Kioria.
And I am Regina Manyara.
Let's get right on. President William Ruto now says his government will deal decisively with the bandits who have caused insecurity in the larger Baringo County.
Speaking during the Thanksgiving church service at Cabernet ASK Showground, the president said the ongoing security operation will stop until sanity is restored.
He ordered those in possession of illegal firearms to surrender them to the police, lest they face the full force of the law.
On Sunday, President William Ruto attended a Thanksgiving church service at Cabernet ASK Showground, Baringo County. It is here that the head of state issued a stern warning to those behind raids that have left several residents dead.
Mambo ya amani, tumekubaliana ya kwamba Kenya hii ni yetu sisi zote. Mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa Baringo vile ninawaambia watu wa Samburu, Turkana, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, tutahakikisha ya kwamba sehemu hii tunakuwa na amani. Tunataka watoto wetu wote wasome. Tunataka kina mama waendelee na kazi zao. Hatutaki watu ambao wanaletewa wanakuwa widows, wengine wanakuwa mayatima, watoto wanakosa kwenda shule. Tukiongea saa hizi kuna mashule karibu 20 ambazo zilifungwa kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usalama.
Ruto vowed to restore sanity in the volatile area to enable the locals go about their activities in tranquility.
Mimi nataka niwahakikishie, whatever it takes, we must make sure that we bring peace in the North Rift. Wananchi wengi wa hapa North Rift ni watu ambao ni watu wa amani. Wananchi wengi hata pale Tiati ni watu ambao wanataka amani. Lakini tuko na watu wachache, watu wajeuri, watu ambao ni wako na kiburi mingi, watu ambao ni wakora. Mimi nataka niwahakikishie hawa watu wachache hatuwezi kuwakubalia waharibu amani ya wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Sentiments that were echoed by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who dismissed Tiati legislator William Kapket's proposal to scale down the operation.
Wale askari wako pale Tiati sio kazi wamekosa ya kufanya. Tuko na kazi mingi sana hapa pale Nairobi na pahali kwingine. Wameletwa hapo kwa sababu iko kazi ya kufanywa. Njia ya kutoa hao askari, mheshimiwa, muongee kama viongozi, warudishe buduki, askari waondoke.
Leaders from the area led by Baringo South lawmaker Charles Kamrin decried the high cases of insecurity in the area have led to many families live in fear, causing the region to lag behind in development. At the same time, the head of state said the government will continue to put mechanisms in place to address the drought situation in the country and ensure that the country is food secure. He urged the residents to put more focus on agriculture, particularly cotton production, which he says has a good market overseas.
Mimi naenda next month kwenda kuongeza nafasi ya hiyo soko kupatikana. Lakini soko hiyo ikiwa inapatikana, lazima pia tuwapange na wakulima hapa, ili hiyo cotton value chain, kuanzia wale wakulima wanapanda pamba, zile ginaries ambazo tutakuwa nazo, zile kampuni kama Rivertex na zingine ambazo zitatusaidia na kutengeneza clothing material, mpaka zile kampuni za EPZ.
Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Now, the prevailing drought has left in its wake a devastating loss in several parts of the country. In Marsabit County, some residents have been forced to restrain their livestock because some of them are too weak to venture out in search for pasture. In the second part of the bane of drought, KBC's Edward Kabasa highlights the plight of residents of Ambalo and Adadi, who have been rendered incapable of sustaining themselves by the prolonged dry spell.
Gubal Halake sits and waits patiently as her 10-liter jerrycan is filled up with water. Back in the day, she would have carried more, but age is gradually catching up with a 70-year-old grandmother. She and her neighbors got together and bought some water that will keep them going for a couple of days. It is, however, only accessible to residents of Adadi village because here, water is very precious and scarce. Back in the village, Malicha Guyo and his wife Galma walked me to where the carcasses of some of their livestock were recently disposed of. I had over 200 herds of cattle before the drought, but I have since lost almost all of them. Guyo tells me. He says the drought has left them at the mercy of salaried neighbors and non-government organizations that have been kind enough to donate food, water and animal feed.
Na tena ikienda hivi hali ya watu ni hatari. Hakuna namna nyingine, hakuna mvua. Hata mbuzi lazima itaenda, sio kama ng'ombe tu.
There are few of such water pans spread out in this region. They were constructed to quench the thirst of livestock. But the drought has been so harsh that some of the animals are too weak to make it here. The prolonged drought has had a devastating effect and continues to squeeze the life out of the few remaining livestock. Halima Sora tells me it is tough being a woman in this part of the world.
Tunataka kuoga kama wanawake wengine, tunataka kufua kama wanawake wengine, lakini hatuna. Tunakuwa tuna patience, tunakaa.
The only available source of water is 15 kilometers away, but that too is too salty to drink. This plant was installed by the county government. It was meant to purify the water, but residents say the project has stalled.
Tunaomba county hata watu wa project zozote atusaidie na hiyo njia mbili. Chakula ya wanadamu na maji ya kukunywa wanadamu na wanyama, chakula hiyo ya wanyama.
That is the art. The prevailing drought has hugely stacked the odds against learners here.
And many learners have opted to move with their parents due to the lack of food, and all these are hampering teaching and learning in this school.
My name is Guyo. I am a class 7. Kama kikubwa kubwa tafanya kazi ya daktari.
Those brave enough to stay behind have had to contend with the harsh reality and hope that more help will soon arrive. Despite Kenya contributing less than 0.1% of the global carbon emissions, it still remains vulnerable to the climate crisis.
Maji kufutwa hata tangi amewekwa hapa katikati mara mbili. Maji kufika hapa. Sasa hiyo pipe zote ile shavo katapila ndio anatengeza barabara. Amengoa zote iko nje.
The World Vision says in Sololo sub-county alone, over 5,000 households have been rendered helpless by the drought.
Cases of malnutrition is rising. We have seen some places it has reached 50%. 50% of the children are malnourished. And if thorough and enough intervention is not going to be done, the situation will only worsen.
Dido says that long-term measures are desperately needed to help residents here become food sufficient. But as the wait for sustainable solutions continues, locals have nothing to do but to hope that it will rain soon. For Sunday Express, I am Edward Kabasa.
And now approximately 28,000 households are facing starvation in Siaya County alone. According to Area County Commissioner Jim Joka, the county has experienced 50% crop failure due to drought. While visiting the region, Information, Communication and Technology Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo assured residents that the government will facilitate a major irrigation program along the Yala Swamp in Siaya to boost food security.
As the drought menace continues to ravage different parts of the country, Siaya County residents have also suffered the effects of drought. Speaking at Rarieda and Ugenya constituencies during a food distribution exercise, Area County Commissioner Jim Joka said depressed rainfall in the region has seen residents who are previously self-sufficient with food rely on relief.
Hata sisi tutataka kuomba tuwekwe kwa mpango of receiving relief food on a regular time basis. Kwa sababu ya ile mimea iko, tunaona we may lose close to 50% of our crop.
Presiding over the exercise, ICTCS Eliud Owalo said the Kenya Kwanza government will facilitate a major irrigation scheme.
We will ensure that there is adequate provision of water, electricity and roads. The government will continue with this Skoru Soin irrigation project, so that we are able to tap into that by way of irrigation for farming and also for purposes of electricity.
The CS said there are plans to facilitate optimum exploitation of the fishing resources to help raise the economic status of the region.
By ensuring that we have got fish processing plants along the beaches of Usenge, Luanda Kotieno and others, so that we don't have a situation where fish is extracted from the lake, exported with nothing going back to the local community.
At the same time, he urged area leaders to put their political differences aside and work with the government to improve the well-being of Kenyans. Ruth Wamboy for Sunday Express.
Now the next story you could say looks or sounds like Abel and Cain's story in the Bible, where an 18-year-old twin has killed his twin brother in Molunda village, Navaholo constituency. The twin Arisa Rashid, who is said to suffer mental illness, hit his brother Asman Rashid on the head with a fork jembe after an altercation with his parents. Rashid was taken to hospital after the incident but succumbed to his injuries. According to their mother Jamila Rashid, the two young men have been very close and the incident has come to them as a surprise.
Alimkata kichwa na chembe, alafu akamkata hapa. Tu wanakula pamoja tena wachakosa nako hata kutoka utoto wao. Huyu mwenye ameumiza mwenzake, akili yake ilikuwa nakimbia mbio. Sijui alikuwa na kisirani kani ama shetani kani yenye ilimfanya.
Alikuwa anaona tu watu wenye walikufa. Sasa vile alikucha pale tukamshika tukamfunga kwa kamba kwa sababu tuliona maneno yenye alikuwa anaongea, tukaona tu mtoto kichwa yake imeruka kitoka. Sasa tukamfunga tu tukapeleka kwa boma ya papa yake. Kwa hivyo yenye
And our British Army training unit in Kenya, Batuk, held a commemoration service in memory of fallen soldiers during the World War I and II from King's African Rifles. The soldiers and their families were honored for their sacrifice and contribution to the prevailing peace.
At the Nanyuki War Cemetery in Laikipia County, the British Training Unit in Kenya is holding a commemoration service for fallen heroes who took part in the First and Second World Wars.
Stand down!
Gravestones encrypted with the names of the soldiers dating back to as early as 1941. Other soldiers who met their death at the battlefield were as young as 20 years.
We remember with thanksgiving and sorrow those whose lives in world wars and conflicts past and present have been given and taken away.
The service brought together their families and soldiers from the camp, led by their commander, Colonel Duncan Mann.
This is a day for me personally to remember all the friends that I've served with who made the personal, the greatest sacrifice, and think of both them, their families, their loved ones, and those that aren't able to be here today.
Many East Africans, and in particular Kenyans, fought in both the First and Second World Wars, and many are laid here to rest.
Colonel Mann noting that this annual event is held especially to remember both Kenyan and British soldiers, sailors and aviators for their gallant sacrifice.
We're also stood in the War Graves Commission here, which is surrounded by many members of the Kenyan community who gave their lives for their country, for the Commonwealth, and for democracy all around the world.
Retired Paramount Chief Charles Njuguna remembered his late father who took part in the World War and the challenges he encountered fighting in a foreign land.
Baba yangu alikuwa katika World War kule Bama, na wakati wanakumbuka wale waliofariki, mimi nasikia kule ndani hawa watu walifanya kazi kubwa sana. Ni kama watu wale walifanya kazi ya maumau. Kazi ya maumau wengine wenu muliona. Lakini hao ilikuwa ngumu sana sababu walikuwa akifanyia nchi ambao hawaijui.
Nancy Okware, Sunday Express.
Well, that story takes us to a very fast break on Sunday Express. When we come back with more news lined up for you, including sports. But of course, in our interview, Regina,
we're going to be talking about mental wellness with a keen focus on persons, or rather with persons with disabilities from the north. So do keep it right here.
There are days when you think, oh, leo na deserve, so order a Glovo. Days when plans inachelewa. What if you order a Glovo? Or days when you can't control everything. Or yes, because on Glovo you can order anything you want. Glovo, you order, we get it.
Utanileteaje mtu ambaye haelewi hata Kiswahili? Tutaelewana mimi na yeye kivipi? Ama ataelewana na customer kivipi?
Umechelewa. What is the time now?
Ni sina saa.
Unagocha wakati unataka, unafikiria yani business yako.
Mpira yana imeshika kushika.
Motobe.
Pira ndaelekeloa kumalizika. Sasa vile elekeloa na meme akachelewa kulala na kuamuka.
Kucha tuweke hapa. Hii vitu ndogo ndogo ndio sitaki mimi. Mweka.
Mweka sile kwa pia hii.
November like never before. Mouth-watering programs. Maza takes a break, and in comes football extravaganza. And a bouquet of the best of movies from the Orient lined up for you. Oh yes, November 2022 is like never before. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. You're watching Sunday Express. Of course, there's a live match ongoing between Manchester United and Fulham. It's a 1-1 for both teams.
I thought the game is 90 minutes, right?
It is 88 minutes. So
okay, fine.
We
still have time.
2 minutes to 90 minutes.
We still have time.
Okay. All right. We're moving forward. And a family residing in Nairobi's Kilimani area has accused a lawyer of taking advantage of their kin's mental illness to dispossess her of her properties.
The lawyer is claimed to have sold the properties after fraudulently transferring ownership to himself.
The family of Jacqueline Wambui is seeking justice after her eviction from her house in Kilimani by her lawyer. Jacqueline says she acquired an apartment at Dennis Court and another at Casablanca Villa, both in Kilimani, while she was working abroad in 2004. She moved back to Kenya and was diagnosed with a mental disorder that impairs her decision-making in 2007. As her condition worsened, she had a fallout with her husband, causing her to find a lawyer to preside over the divorce arrangement.
Tuseme naye wakili yule tulimpeleka kwake aliuliza huyu ama ako na property. Naye huyu akaenda akamwambia ukweli niko na property. Akaambia enda uniletee title zake. Sasa hivyo ndio sasa huyu wakili alianza kukarabati bila atamnyang'anya kwa sababu anaona huyu hana maisha.
This is when the lawyer is said to have forged a letter handing himself the power of attorney over Jacqueline Wambui's properties and blocking out any contact between her and the bank to which she was paying the mortgage.
2007 again I was admitted at a mental institution for 3 months. So during those 3 months there was a bit of a delay of me paying my mortgage. So they sent me a reminder. And they send it through the lawyer. That is when the lawyer saw the opportunity.
The lawyer is said to have subsequently illegally transferred ownership of Jacqueline's house to himself using forged documents and signatories and rented a house for her elsewhere, moving her out of her own house during the period she was admitted to the hospital.
According to him, it's me writing to the bank telling them to redeem the title of that flat through Mr. Shege. So he's basically giving himself power of attorney. Because once this letter was received by the bank never contacted me again.
A case was filed against Jacqueline Wambui and her mother Pauline Nganga as the second respondent due to the failure to vacate the property in March 2009. The case was ruled in the favor of the plaintiff in May 2020. The family now wants the case to be reopened on the basis of new evidence showing that the stamp duty for the purported land transaction was refuted by the Kenya Revenue Authority and the National Bank of Kenya on the basis that the receipt was fraudulently obtained and presented as evidence of payment.
So they are the ones who presented evidence. Bearing in mind I had no paperwork because he never used to give me paperwork, not even a copy of that so-called sale agreement. I didn't have it. I had nothing.
The family is now raising questions over the ruling of the case and want further investigations to be undertaken. The family of Jacqueline are now seeking justice as they cry foul play over the matter. Reporting for Sunday Express, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now that's a case of betrayal there, client versus their lawyer. We'll be keeping tabs on that development. Now, incidents of victimization and stigma targeting teenage mothers are on the rise in Trans Nzoia County. The young mothers say this has stalled their education, with their parents also throwing the towel due to undue pressure from society. Tonight, we take a look at how some of the young mothers in Matitsi ward in Sabauti constituency are trying to juggle motherhood alongside academics.
National statistics from the Ministry of Health show that between January and February 2022, 45,724 schoolgirls aged between 10 and 19 years were reported to be pregnant. Majority of the girls do not resume school after delivery. Our quest to find out why took us to Matisi Ward in Saboti constituency in Trans Nzoia County, where cases of preteen and teen pregnancies are on the rise. Rafiki Secondary School is one of the affected institutions. Only 2 teen moms are back in school out of 20 who fell pregnant last year.
For this year, our cases are about 9, and most of the students who have had pregnancies, we allow them back to school. Last year, we had about 11 cases, out of which around 8 have come back to school.
Kusoma nilisoma vizuri, I was a bright girl. Kufika form 2, that adolescent stage and peer pressure among my friends ndio ilinifanya nikapata ujauzito nikiwa mdogo. Nilipata ujauzito nikiwa na umri wa miaka 17.
Veronica and Teresa are both Form 4 candidates.
Mi peer pressure ndio ilifanya nikapata ujauzito. Okay. The first time I tried, I didn't know when I'll get pregnant. So hivyo tu ndio ilikuwa, na hivyo ndio nilipata ujauzito wangu wa kwanza.
I used to come to school hadi nikafika mwezi wa 7 sasa. After election nikaamua tukubakia nyumbani, sasa ndio nikajifunguanga hiyo August. Nikajifungua September, nikakaa nyumbani. Sasa hii October sasa nimekuja shule, niko naendelea na masomo yangu vizuri tu.
Their schoolmate Sarah is pregnant. Like Veronica and Teresa, she hopes to remain in class until delivery and resume studies afterwards.
Mimi nikijifungua tu nitarudi shule niendelee na masomo yangu hadi nimalize.
Another school grappling with increasing cases of teenage pregnancies is Grassland Primary School. Modeste, a Class 8 candidate and teen mom, agrees to speak to us about her situation.
Wakati ilifika akaniambia twende kwake, nikaenda. Akaniambia nimekuja kuita tukekeka hapa karibu 1 month. Nikamwambia na mimi shule, after all nimekosana mama yangu. Akaniambia usijali, itakuwa tu unatoka hapa ukienda shule.
Disappointment and guilt are some of the emotions parents and guardians of teen mothers feel.
Alipopata hiyo hali nikaenda shule, principal akaniambia mtoto akae nyumbani. Akishajifungua maliza miezi 6 mama mtoto arudi shule. Amekaa alipofika kiwango hiyo nikamrudisha shule.
To support the academic ambitions of the young mothers, school heads in the region organize counseling sessions.
Our former students who have made it to the university, they come back, they talk to the same girls. We also call professionals. Some of the professionals who talk to the girls about career progression.
The local administration, led by Matisi Chief, also often runs sensitization campaigns.
Ningependa kuomba wazazi, sisi serikali tutafanya part yetu ya kuchunga watoto hawa, hakikishia ya kwamba yeyote atakayewapea mimba tutamshika. Na pia tumediscourage mambo ya disco matanga, mambo ya health programs zinaendelea shuleni. Pia tungependa wazazi pia wakuwe na muda na watoto wao.
In 1994, the Ministry of Education enacted the school re-entry policy, which addresses early and unintended pregnancies. This policy allows girls to be admitted back to school 6 months after giving birth.
Kuna watoto ambao tumegundua kwamba wanapata mimba na wazazi hawataki kuwaruhusu waende shuleni. Kuna mtoto ambaye alikuwa class 6 alipata mimba, tumejaribu kufuatilia, wazazi hawataki. Kuna kesi kama 3 ambayo wazazi wanaona kwamba wale watoto walifanya makosa.
Thankfully, implementation of the school re-entry policy is picking up in Matisi and other parts of Trans Nzoia County, a welcome relief after years of victimization and stigmatization of schoolgirls who fall pregnant.
The Bible Translation and Literacy BTL organization has launched school books in Digo, Duruma and Pokomo languages to boost first language literacy among school children in remote areas of Kwale County. The organization's national director, Reverend Peter Munguti, said the books will help promote and preserving local community languages in the new school curriculum.
Speaking during the launch of the school books at Kwale Stadium, the Bible Translation Literacy Organization National Director Reverend Dr. Peter Munguti said the grades 1, 2 and 3 books cover all the subjects in the Digo, Duruma and Pokomo languages and have been developed under the Mother Tongue Education Program for Indigenous languages in Kenya.
Watoto wanavyopata hivyo vitabu na kuvitumia vitaondoa mambo mengi ambao imefanya kwamba watoto wasiweze kusoma vizuri, wengine kwa sababu ya kuongopa Kiingereza, wengine kwa sababu ya kuongopa aibu. Wanapojenga msingi wa kusoma kupitia lugha zao, wataweza kusoma bila kuongopa na wataweza kuanza msingi mzuri na kuendelea katika masomo.
He said the project is aimed at improving literacy and numeracy in learners in their mother tongue and also to promote the acquisition of English as the second language before English becomes the medium of instruction from grade 4 onwards.
Ni ombi langu kwamba wataweza kuwahimiza watoto wao wazingatie mambo ya masomo, kwa sababu wasiposoma vizuri hawataweza kuendelea kimaisha, hawataweza kuingia katika nafasi za serikali ambazo zinapatikana, hawataweza kujiendeleza katika maisha vizuri.
Ni vitabu ambazo zitatumika kuwasaidia wale wengine ambao pia waliruka wakawa tunaishi maisha yale ya wenzetu na kule nyuma tu tumepitwa. Kwa hivyo nataka niseme ni initiative nzuri and tunaendelea kupatia support kama serikali gatuzi ya Kwale.
Time for us to take another break. I'm sure you have something you want to let out of your chest.
Yes, I was just wondering, is the Fulham Manchester United game over?
It is over. The results are 2-1.
And
in favor of Manchester United.
Thank you very much. On that note, on that very high note, we take a quick breather. We'll be back with the day's sports with none other than Karen Kibet. After, we're going to be talking about mental wellness, targeting persons with disabilities in the north. So do keep it right here.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mr. Otieno. Na ukumbuke FIFA World Cup 2022 iko hapa here in KBC na kuhitaji. Karibu.
Welcome back to Sunday Express. Let's now talk sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the Portuguese national soccer team captain Cristiano Ronaldo could become the first male player to score at 5 separate World Cup finals. Elsewhere, Leicester City manager Brendan Rodgers has confirmed that English midfielder Jameson Maddison is fine after he was subbed off early against West Ham. The 2022 World Cup finals in Qatar will be broadcasted live on KBC Channel 1 and all KBC's radio stations beginning on the 20th of this month to the 18th of December 2020 World Cup.
Poulard's whistle, composes himself and scores.
Manchester United and Portuguese national soccer team forward Cristiano Ronaldo is set to make history if he scores a goal in this month's World Cup finals in Qatar. The 37-year-old has scored in each of the previous 4 editions since his World Cup debut in 2006.
Yeah, I spoke to our doctor just before coming to here, so he said he's fine. He hasn't trained a great deal since Everton. Just felt a little knock on his knee.
Minute with a knee injury. Elsewhere, Brazil national soccer team striker Neymar Jr. has admitted the Qatar 22 World Cup finals could be his last. The 30-year-old is unsure of featuring in the 2026 edition, especially after the Seleção coach Tite announced that he would be stepping aside after this year's finals. Neymar will be leading the South Americans in their quest for a 6th World Cup title. The World Cup finals will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and all KBC radio stations beginning on the 20th of this month to the 18th of December 2022. World Cup Eco KBC.
Moving on, a team that will represent Kenya at the East Africa University Track and Field Athletics competition has been selected, ready to take part in the event set to be held in Kampala, Uganda next month. Meanwhile, the Catholic University soccer team fell 2-1 to East African University in the Kenya University Sports Association games held at the Nairobi University. Machakos University ladies football team shared spoils with Multimedia University after playing to a 1-1 draw.
A team that will represent Kenya at the East Africa University's athletics was selected yesterday during the Inter-University Track and Field Athletics Championships held at Kenyatta University. The East Africa University Track and Field Athletics will be held in Kampala, Uganda next month. The event attracted 10 universities from across the country.
My future plan is first to set a record at the East African Games, which are to be held in December in Uganda, and also to be a professional athlete.
I've run so good time, good form, and it's a build-up towards next year because currently I'm on build-up, so we decided to come to this race as a friendly.
I had challenges with my right foot, so it was challenging, but I kept the faith that I had to win it.
For me, I like this as part of a training, and I'm really excited because I have set a new BB today.
The best athletes may be joining the disciplined forces. The army, the police also come scouting, and when they get good athletes, they employ them, which is good for us because the athletes at that point are assured of employment. Others also at one point go on scholarship, track scholarship in the US, Europe.
Meanwhile, in the second leg of the Kenya University Sports Association Games, Zitek University beat Machakos University 50-19 in a basketball match played at the University of Nairobi. In another match, Catholic University fell into the hands of African Nazarene University 45-21. Strathmore University had a goalless draw against Multimedia University men's soccer team, while East African University beat the varsity side Catholic University of Kenya 2-1. The Kusa League is ongoing in different regions, and the eventual winners will meet for the Kusa Nationals at a venue to be communicated later.
Bomet Private Schools Association has urged the government to support private schools when it comes to supporting sporting activities. Philemon Kirui, who is in charge of extracurriculum activities in the association, said many a time the state has been focusing much on public schools while talents among the students go untapped. He said that to ensure uniformity in the tapping of talents among young learners, there is a need for the government to improve the private-public partnership in order to move sports to the next level. The educationist lauded the new competency-based curriculum for identifying the talents at a tender age, saying it would add more ideas to the sporting activities.
It's much about how the private schools are prepared on the issue of co-curricular activities. We definitely know that co-curricular activities are very important. It is holistic. It makes the child well-rounded. There was the effect of the corona pandemic, but now we are prepared that come next year, the private schools are very ready to cooperate with the ministry so that we have our child taking part in co-curricular activities. Right now, we want to appreciate CPC because CPC is also dealing about preparing the child, nurturing them on the talents. A school which takes part in extracurriculum also performs very well academically. We know the phrase that all jacks without play, it made a jack a dull boy. So definitely, where there is active participation in co-curricular activities, also there is good performance.
Gladys Mweni emerged as the overall winner in the 2022 East Park Charity Golf Tournament played at the Par 71 Nyali Golf and Country Club course in Mombasa. The handicap 23 lady golfer won after carding 39 stable Ford points to clinch the lead and register her first major victory of the year. George Mokau, playing off handicap 33, won the men's title with 39 points after beating Dr. Mukesh Shah. Those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. Have yourself an amazing evening, but I won't leave without mentioning that Manchester United has beaten Fulham 2-1, goals courtesy of Eriksen and Garnacho, Singers staying at position 5 with 26 points. Good news for Manchester United fans. And I know Regina Manyara, who's waiting for you on the other side, is equally happy. She has an amazing interview lined up, so I'll hand you back to my colleague Regina. Regina, take it away.
Oh, thank you very much. With just 7 days to the World Cup there, Manchester United, at least they're taking a win, unlike what JJ had predicted earlier on when we began this broadcast. Well, now we're at position 5. Can we say Viva Manchester United?
Oh, yes.
So, yes, Viva Manchester United. Now we shift gears and we talk about matters of mental wellness. But before that, persons with disabilities drawn from nomadic regions are calling on for their meaningful engagement in public decision and process making and access to job and business opportunities. They say the pastoralist nature of their families is straining their caregivers, and this in the long run affects their mental health. During the 10th Disability Conference of the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization held in Isiolo County, the myths surrounding the disabled persons in nomadic communities and their need for their representation in their respective counties came up. Yusuf Farah was in attendance and spoke to some of the attendees and filed the following story.
Persons living with disability coming from pastoralist counties in northern Kenya are still fighting for inclusion, representation and advocacy to address the unique challenges they face in their daily lives. During During this year's disability conference organized by the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization, these challenges were brought to light.
In the health sector, about 80% of persons with disabilities do not access quality medical services compared to 50% of the general population. Unemployment is high in persons with disabilities as a result of employer perception, discrimination, and academic qualifications.
Most people with disability, and especially people from pastoralist communities, have been left behind matters development. And this is because they are not engaged, they are not consulted, they are not involved.
In a candid conversation with some of the disabled persons, they revealed how they are looked at as a mistake and are usually neglected whenever important family matters are being discussed.
Kwa Samburu kuwa mtu mlemavu unaitwanga woki. Inasema amelaaniwa, huyu amelaaniwa. Sasa unaweka jina ya kudhalilisha. Sasa inaelezwa mfano kama family moja watu wawili disability ikitoka wanaeleza family amelaaniwa anko yake ama amelaaniwa na babu yao.
When the community moves, it is a very big challenge for a person with a disability to survive and in such an environment. So you actually carried when you migrate. Sometimes you are taken to the nearest settlement.
Tuzeme hata kama uko nyumbani hakuna kitu unahusishwa. Kimasomo pia unafichwa. Hata masomo huwezi pata. Si rahisi upate. Kwanza familia wengine wanaficha watoto, hata masomo huwezi pata.
This stigma and neglect takes a toll on their mental health.
Biggest problem usually we have is the attitude from the public, attitude from even the members of the family, attitude from the decision makers.
Sasa hata hawa najidhalilisha na kuendelea kukaa chini na kukata tamaa.
Ilinivunja moyo mpaka kidogo nikarudi hata kimasomo nyuma. Na pia naona watu hata wanafunzi ambayo tulikuwa tunasoma pamoja wananitenga, wananiangalia hivi.
Samburu-nominated MCA Osman Dube, however, says despite these challenges, disabled persons need to fight for their rightful place in the counties and petition administrations to push for the disability inclusion agenda.
Ukiangalia Kenya mzima, county hajapata nominated ya disability ni 21. County 21, county 7 ni wafugaji.
Abdia Abdi is a resident in Taylor in Isiolo County, and she has refused to let her disability impede her from chasing her dream of financial independence.
Kama wewe mwenyewe ujajikubali, wewe ni mlemavu, utafika. So nimejikubali.
While pushing for the access to opportunities and inclusion of persons with disability in key nation-building processes, Nondo is still calling on the disabled persons not to let stigma obscure them, but instead come out and take advantage of the already available opportunities presented to them.
Walemavu watokelezee, watafute haki yao, wasome, wajue haki yake ni gani. Ikijua haki yako, unajiendeleza.
Persons living with disabilities insist that inclusivity and equal access to opportunities should be a top agenda of the administration of their respective counties. Yusuf Farah reporting for KBC Channel 1 in the county of Isiolo.
Thank you very much, Yusuf Farah, for bringing us that comprehensive report there that sets the pace for tonight's conversation. We're focusing on mental wellness and the focus on persons with disabilities in pastoralist communities. Joining us tonight is none other than the CEO of Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization, Nondo, Fatma Mohammed. Thank you very much for making time, Fatma.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, that is what happened last week. But now since we have you in person, maybe you can break it down to us how exactly, lack of inclusion and stigma, some of the issues that came out from that report prepared by Yusuf Farah, affect the mental wellness of persons with disabilities from the north.
Okay, maybe I can just start with how the organization came into being. The organization came into being almost 11 years ago, and it was started by person with disability who acquired disability, and there was no organization that was fighting for the right of people with disability then.
Yes.
So as a result, this person, he acquired disability. He wasn't able to access the opportunities he was able to access earlier. He wasn't able to access the services he was accessing before he acquired disability. And as a result, there was a need. So he started this organization. The organization advocates for the rights, inclusion, and participation of persons with disabilities from pastoralist communities. At first, it was only the northern Kenya, but we saw the challenges were not just faced by the people from northern Kenya only. It was faced by people from pastoralist communities, and these are 12 counties we are working in. So these people facing unique challenges. The unique challenges are unique to them only, to the pastoralist communities. You can find that access to opportunities, access to education, these are the barrier. A barrier has been placed across these services and these opportunities by the society. These opportunities of education, children with disabilities from right when they were born are not accepted. They are made to feel like they are a reject.
Stigma is what you're saying.
Stigma, exactly, because of myths and misconceptions that are surrounding disability.
What myths? Maybe just unpack that for us. What myths and misconceptions are there, that boil down to stigma of children who are born with disabilities, or even those who acquire disabilities?
Okay, the myths are people feeling like when you have a child with disability, it's a punishment. To have a child with disability is a curse. To have a person with disability among you is a burden. Those things. You'll be very surprised that we're in the 21st century.
Yes.
And these things were there even before, way back, and they are still continuing. The society has internalized and is still continuing to be passed to generations and generations to come.
We need to correct that. Now, from where you sit as an organization, since you're working across these 12 counties, how then does this stigma, misrepresentation of persons with disabilities from these 12 counties affect their mental wellness?
Okay, when you are born and isolated and you don't have a strong support system, and you learn to adapt to the environment, which has a lot of barrier, then you go through these mental challenges. I mean, people, just people without disabilities go through these mental distresses. And when you have a disability, now it's added another mental distress because of the opportunities you cannot access as a person with disabilities. We persons with disabilities have a very expensive lifestyle to maintain. And if you don't get opportunities that are there, the education, first of all, which is the foundation, which is the only alternative, which is the only alternative for people with disability to succeed, then this means that for the rest of your life, you're going to be dependent on some people. For the rest of your life, you're not going to maintain this expensive lifestyle. And as a result, you see many people with disabilities are adapting to some situations of probably, maybe, just reserving themselves, just not even asking for their rights. Also, being very aggressive. And when people are being very aggressive, people translate it in a negative way. They tend to judge people with disability negatively. They tend to think that people with disability are just difficult in nature. But even people without disability adapt differently in distress situations. And these people are not any different. People with disability are human beings, but the only thing which is different is the disability added to it, right?
Now, yes, you have worked as an organization for the last decade plus. In your role for advocacy, have you seen change, in a move to have persons with disability included at, the policy making level, at least at the counties, or is it still a missing gap?
Okay, let me just start with nationally. Nationally, we have very good policies. Our Constitution, Disability Act, and other policies.
Yes.
Now the problem is only the implementation. The implementation is really slow and is really painfully slow. At the county levels, the people who push for disability agenda are the representative of people with disability, the MCAs at the county level. Unfortunately, this year, it was way worse than other election years. Out of 47 counties, almost 22 counties did not have representation of people with disabilities. And even those counties that had, didn't have 2 as required by law. In Manyara, sadly, a position which was supposed to go to an MCA with disability was given to another person who didn't have disability. For us, as an organization, we had formed an MCA caucus. An MCA caucus in these 12 counties. These MCAs are the ones who are helping us to push for disability agendas because they are sitting in these county assemblies. They help us push for the policies, budgetary allocation for people with disability. But unfortunately, even for them, who really invested in this election, who really invested in the support for the political leadership, and then after all this, they are denied these positions. It's really unfortunate. And these are the things that are causing mental well-being for people with disability. Even somebody's dignity, a person who used to work and then now all of a sudden they don't have work. They're out of work. They had invested somewhere else, probably all their funds, and now they don't have funds. They are going to zero. And for this, they are losing their dignity. They are losing their self-esteem.
That is definitely going to make someone, angry, depressed, and such, and that all fall under mental health, wellness. Now that we find ourselves in this situation with the numbers that you have given, Madam Fatma Mohammed there. So then what do we do? What recommendations would you give as an organization, as a person within, that particular community to have, inclusion of these persons with disabilities? What recommendations do you give going forward?
My recommendation is an organization also, because I represent my organization. As an organization, we will recommend that inclusion for people with disability, and inclusion. When we include people with disability, when we consider people with disability in everything that we do, then it will be easy for people with disability to participate. It will be easy for people with disability to access these opportunities which are there for them. But if we continue excluding them, there are many ways to exclude them. The negative attitudes, the environmental structures which are not allowing them, and so many other things. But if we include people with disability in decision-making processes, in all areas, in all aspects of life, then we'll be able to change a lot of things. I mean, just a quick one. At some point, everybody is going to acquire disability, probably. And this is when we get older. When we get older, we acquire all types of disability. It's difficult for us to walk. It's difficult for us to see, to hear, all of them at the same time. But nobody thinks about that. I mean, if you think about that, you will make comfortable spaces for everyone, and we'll be living in a better world. An inclusive world. For abled and for people with disability and people without disability. Yeah.
I like what you have said, Fatma Mohammed, there. That is quite, sobering, that everyone in one way or another in their lifetime, if they at least get to the old age, we are candidates of disability one way or another. So we need to make a world a more hospitable place to be. Now, before I let you go and before we bring this to a close, how do then we tackle the issue of enculturation when it comes to, you know, stigmatizing those who are either acquired disability or are born with disability? From where you sit as we come to a close.
I say a lot of awareness creation. What's making parents of children with disability hide children with disability is because because of those stigma, right? So I would say if we create more awareness, if we bring out more role models, people with disabilities, to talk about disability, and if media, who is the greatest influencer, help us to give more stories on disability, successful stories on disability, not just the story of Woye or somebody just doing their ordinary things and you're thinking this person is extraordinary is an extraordinary person just because he was able to just do the things that he was supposed to do. I mean, to just change the narrative around disability, and media helping us. And thank you so much, KBC, because I had came to know that you are really encouraging inclusivity even in your everything.
Yes,
so
our infrastructure actually is tailored towards that. We're trying. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I'm hoping that all the other medias will follow suit and they will be able to encourage stories of disability, encourage, I mean, help us. You know, as an organization, alone we cannot do it, but with other stakeholders together, we'll be able to achieve the inclusivity that we are looking for. We were not here 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we were not there. We were not here. Right now, I can say, at least people with disability know they are right.
Yes.
People with disability, the organizations of people with disability are coming up. So many of them are coming up. And at least we are able, I mean, the government is able to listen to us.
To listen.
Yeah.
So at least there's visibility. We were not here 30 decades ago, but now we have people who are speaking up for their rights. Well, that brings the conversation to a close, and I'm going to be joined by my colleague, JJ, there as we bring this to a close. Thank you very much for watching Sunday Express. But before we let you go, Madam Fatuma Mohammed, World Cup iko KBC. Would want to know which team are you going to be supporting? Tumesema masaa ni chache, mambo ni mengi. Siku ni saba. Do you have a team for the World Cup?
Me, I will support the team that will win.
You're supporting the team. That is wise. That is wise. That's a wise move. Fatuma Mohammed there, who is the CEO of Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization there, saying that she's going to be supporting the team that is going to be winning. Well, we have 7 days and we will know by December. We will know by December who is going to be carrying the cup.
December 18th is actually the end of the entire episode of the World Cup. So from next weekend all the way up until the 18th, particularly us men, we are engaged.
I like what you're saying. Oh, you're busy.
A little bit. We are not really available.
They'll be engaged to World Cup.
Because of the World Cup. But indeed, quite an informative conversation you're having tonight, and very important for that matter. These are the conversations we ought to be having every single time in terms of, you know, making our people better in terms of information. But again, Karen reminds us to emphasize again, World Cup, Eco KBC. In 7 days, we'll be showing you the tournament.
I think I'll go with what Madam CEO said. I'll be supporting the winning team.
What a way to escape bets. Time for us to put a cap on Sunday Express. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Have yourself a fantastic night.
Sorry. And I am Regina. Manyara, have a blessed night. Viva Manchester United. No, don't forget that.
Kumpenda mtu kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *812 *501 hash.
Mapenzi si kumpenda mtu kwa kuwa amekamilika, kwani nawe pia una mapungufu yako. Kwa hivyo mapenzi ni kumpenda mtu na mapungufu yake.
Kupata kumpenda mtu, bonyeza *812 *501 hash. *812 *501 hash.